And the vote is agreed. Thank you.
To approve the agenda for Mr. Hall, seconded by Mr. Jeanette. All in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Thank you. I'd like a motion to approve the minutes from February 12th. Mr. Denisa, seconded by Mr. Hall. Any discussion about those? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I would like to note that Mr. Sheridan is remoting in from 282 107th Avenue, Treasure Island, Florida. He'll be here by Zoom. So first up, we have emergency services. I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Onondaga County for a master radio communication site agreement for the Office of Emergency Services, moved by Mr. Jeanette, seconded by Mr. Denisha. Good evening, Mr. Benner. Thank you for being here.
Good evening. The first resolution that I have in front of you, kind of what the current said, this is an agreement for the master site that supports our radio upgrade for the new system we're putting in it. So to kind of emphasize on that, what this is, it's a digital system. And when the mics get up, it goes to a tower, it goes to a computer. So a central computer, the master site, if we were to purchase one of our own, right now the price quote is 1.35 million to 1.5 million. And the maintenance per year on that core, on that master site is $350,000 a year. So we are a member, St. Lawrence County is a member of two radio consortiums, Adirondack, which is St. Lawrence County North, and then Central New York, which is St. Lawrence County down south. So St. Lawrence County, or Central New York Interoperable Communications Consortium has the master core in Onondaga County at their 911 center. There's currently 8 counties that are on that core that are sharing the maintenance costs. So that core was purchased through grants, and every year there's a recurring maintenance cost for that. So by St. Lawrence County joining on that core, we would participate, we'd be the 9th county to participate and help with the maintenance costs on that core. So by doing this resolution in agreement to sign with that, it's a 5-year agreement, with I think there's 3 extensions onto it, would save the taxpayers of the county some money.
Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Reagan?
How much? Well, maintenance cost right now, what I got this year, saving 300,000. And then the 1.5 million for the purchase.
So we need 1 night.
Like 1 night of the cost, but every year, the prices do go up, for maintenance. We currently, the consortium is meeting with Central New York, which is all the counties together down there, and for a price that's coming up. So that's to be determined. We would not start paying until 2025, till we started actually using the system. But being that we're starting to purchase parts and putting stuff in, Onondaga would like us to have the agreement set in place ahead.
Okay, anyone else have Mr. Smithers?
Matt, you said if we didn't join in with this, then we'd have to purchase the equipment, not just maintain it, but we'd have to initially
We'd have
purchase.
to have the initial
Which would be
purchase,
an initial cost of that in addition to the maintenance.
then we'd have a recurring maintenance cost every year, correct?
Yeah.
That raised hell with Matt's salary,
What doesn't?
Did you have a question, Mr. Lincoln?
I beg your pardon?
Did you have a question?
No, I don't.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries. Next up, we have a resolution supporting the emergency services communication towers for Star Lake and Cranberry Lake in the Adirondack Park, moved by Smithers, Denisha Perkins.
So, the second resolution, like I said, it's, in support of the two towers that we're looking at putting in there in that park. So other counties and other townships have done a resolution. So, I brought the resolution in front of you to see if you guys would like to do the same. I currently have one in front of me from the town of Dwayne. This one is from the town of Fine. This one is from the town of Clifton, and this one's from Washington County. So they are currently in the town of Hopkinton. So currently, they've already passed the resolution, and sent us copies. So I thought it'd be, a good thing to give you guys the opportunity to do the same. So when we go in front of, the APA with our application, you know, we'll have resolution support from other entities.
Mr. Forsythe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Did they, has there been any conversation about a caller tower? Between these other
Why
guys?
you should say that? So how much time you got? So, as you know, we're in the process right now of the applications. So currently, we're meeting with the APA staff. Hasn't been favorable for St. Lawrence County so far. So I do have a meeting with the APA government, agencies, next week. They have a lot of questions. They'd like to do a resolution, be in support of it too, but they'd like to have some questions answered. So they asked me to come down to the meeting. So I'm going down in Star Lake next week, you know, to talk with them and get them answered. So we are currently going, we've looked at several different heights. The minimum height that we have in order to take care of the two hamlets is 113 feet. So we also have Wanakina. Wanakina is in the middle. We do have a fair share there, and we have up towards CD's Corners. In order to hit those hamlets in those areas, we're looking at around 180 feet. So obviously, you know, the higher you go, the more it goes out. If we do not get to go at 180 feet, if we have to settle, then we're gonna end up in the future probably putting two more towers in. The last couple set of towers, the ones in 2017, were a little over $500,000 each to build. No equipment, it's putting towers up, shelters, generators, and the site development. The ones in 2020, the three we put up, Governor was a little over $1 million, and the other two, which was Hammond and Waddington, were a little over $750,000. So that was in 2020. Here we are in 2024. We currently have Potsdam's Tower out for bid as we speak. That is the bid opening is the 21st of March. So I'm anxious to see how that comes in. So we'll know, you know, how the time and how much it went up for me.
Okay, so when you meet, if I may, if you meet with them, and when you meet with them, just encourage them to just let us have one tower and go a little bit higher, and we'll camouflage it, we'll do whatever they need, but,
That's been
you
done.
know, this
So
this is very-
we're working with a few outfits. One of them is Saratoga Environmental. So they've done projected maps that showed the staff members from the APA what the viewpoints would be. So everything on the map that was purple that they showed us, you would be able to see the tower. So pretty much in Premier Lake, the Route 3 corridor, you would see it just from a couple little spots. Nobody from house would be able to see it. Out on the lake, you would definitely be able to see it. Up in Star Lake, again, there's just a few areas that you could see the tower, and it doesn't matter if it's 100 feet or 180 feet, it's all sticks above the trees, 370 foot. So they're gonna see it. One thing I did bring up to them is I asked for a public hearing, both in the town of Clifton and the town of Fine. Let the general public come in, let them listen to the public and see if they object to the tower or what they look like. Currently, our departments in those areas do not carry pagers. You know, well, the little black boxes, you see all the firemen and EMS carry, they don't carry them because we can't shred them. As you remember the PowerPoint I showed you guys for the radio system when we were getting into it, they have a 20-foot telephone pole that's up on top of the mountain, the hill behind the fire station in Star Lake. That's the only thing we got. And then in Cranberry Lake, we have it inside one of the Franklin trees. That's got cell phone antennas all the way around, which that one is in the summer times and our we can't even use that. So we definitely have an issue up in that area.
Public hearing, you have to plan for the summer to get all the residents.
That's what intentions were, but the longer we push this out, you know, you know, it's different. Like we do have grant funds that we've had. As you just did, I think it was, and this one was last month's resolution to extend one of the grants. The state knew this predicament we were in, so they agreed to extend this. That grant goes towards building of some of these towers. And actually, one of the ones you're going to authorize tonight, hopefully, that's going towards the building of towers too. So if we keep prolonging, we're going to lose grant funds from the state.
All right, thank you.
So next was Mr. Smithers, designation.
Matt, how far inside the Adirondack Park Agency would this tower be? So it's a matter of how many miles.
I don't know the exact miles, but they're right on the Route 3 corridor. One's gonna be located in the back corner of the Cranberry Lake Fire Station. And the second one is gonna be in Star Lake, up on the mountain where the water tower is, right behind the fire station right there. So you know, the line is what, in South Fulton? You know, is where it goes, so it's pretty distance off the line. Actually, our tower that's in Hopkinton, is in the Adirondack Park. It's right on the edge, just makes it in the park when it's up Parishville and Hopkinton line.
So it wouldn't be practical to put it outside the park. We'd want it
We
definitely
we wouldn't get the
inside.
coverage, unfortunately, for the mountains, we wouldn't get, and those are the densely populated areas, those two areas. So that's the area that we're looking to get, the radio service from.
Mr. Denisha, you are on this one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matt, thanks for bringing this forward. It's been a long time in coming, and I think the fourth whereas, for me, and I think folks who live within the Cranberry Lake, Star Lake, greater Clifton Fine area. Whereas proposed new emergency communications towers and maximum coverage heights will substantially improve the current gaps, provide critical public safety upgrades. You know, that's we all know the southern part of the county is, I don't want to say underserved, but well, it is. We don't have the radio, we don't have radio communication or cell service. You know, we have a number of, this time of year, population is not so great. In the summertime, with all the summer residents, the population balloons in those two areas. And, you know, talking with a lot of the folks up there, summer residents as well as year-round residents, I know we get, the APA is real concerned about the line of sight.
Right.
And the people that live there, the people that vacation there are more concerned about access to emergency care, emergency services, and they are seeing a tower. You know, if the tower is actually, I think the people who being able to see the tower is most important to is people who don't even live there. So I'm in full support of this resolution and
Thank you, sir. Mr. Reagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matt, I'm really happy that you're trying to get the APA to have some public hearings in the communities affected. And I hope that if you're successful, that you'll make a concerted effort to fill those hearings with the people who are going to benefit from this. You know, too often the other side are the people who are hurt. And we need to be able to get the members of the fire departments, the rescue people, representatives from our law enforcement community, folks from Clifton Fine Hospital, from the ER, from the Forest Rangers, the Ranger School, all the agencies you talked about, the highway departments. We need to fill those rooms so that the representatives from the Adirondack Park Agency understand that this is a matter of life and death for the people who live in that area. And also, you know, because you may or may not be able to get it during the tourist season. So hopefully if you are, we can reach out to the seasonal residents who, you know, whose lives depend on being able to get emergency medical services to them during a crisis. But it's important that we, you know, as a political body, understand that we need to do our part and fill the room and make it clear to the bureaucrats who are so concerned about whether or not, you know, there's someone might, while driving high speed across Star Lake, see a flash of a tower. It's way more important that they hear from Joe Citizen, whose life could depend on whether or not this service is available. So, as someone who, worked in, the biz for many years, fill the room.
Totally agree.
Anyone else? All in favor of this resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services Office for an interoperable and emergency communications for a fiscal year 23 statewide interoperable communication formula grant and modifying the 2024 emergency services moved by Mr. Jeanette, Mr. Smithers, Mr. Denisha, and Mr. Perkins.
So this is our, a yearly grant. It's called the SIG grant, intercommunication grant. The ones that we currently have, we just did an extension last month on that. These are to build interoperable communications, towers, radio equipment, stuff like that. So, we do have last year's that we got extended. We do have that and some other grants, targeted grant that received that are set aside for the towers. We don't really know what those prices are gonna be. I'll know more on the 21st when we do that bid opening. But this will help hopefully fill the gap that we have to make sure we can get those three built.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right, carries. Next up, we have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with the New York State Office of Homeland Security for a fiscal year 23 PSAP grant and modifying the 2024 budget for emergency services moved by Mr. Jeanette and Mr. Perkins and Mr. Forsythe.
So this here, the last grant that's on here, well, it's not the last, there's one after this. But what this is our annual PSAP grant. So this is dedicated for the PSAP, the Public Safety Answer Plan. Years in the past, New York State gives us 1 year to get this spent. So this has got to be spent by December 31st. And we'd have to have the purchases in and everything else. So it's been really, really hard to do for all the counties. So one thing all the counties did is we went to the state, they understand the hard. So what they're allowing us to do now is we can put this towards the dispatcher salaries because they work inside the PSAP. So which makes it a lot easier. So as you noticed on this year's budget, we use this to pay for a lot of the maintenance costs on our Stillman and our CAD system, which is Stillman, and then with our radio system for Entrado, we use this grant to pay for that, and then like upgraded equipment as we need them, repeaters for the towers and stuff. So we added some appropriations to our equipment for interoperable communications budget, and then this will go towards salaries and it kind of offsets. But we can get it spent right away and we don't get any of it back.
Any questions? Mr. Smithers.
Sorry, could you just say once again what the PSAP?
Public Safety Answering Point. So it's the 911 side.
Good. Anybody else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Lastly, for Mr. Denner, I have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with the American Kennel Club Companion Animal Recovery Corporation for a pet disaster relief unit to be utilized by St. Lawrence County Animal Response Team, moved by Mr. Forsythe, seconded by Mr. Jeanette, and Mr. Perkins.
So what this is kind of a grant that our county CART team, the county animal response team. So what is a county animal response team? So we have, we just had a barn fire up in Wallingford not long ago over the winter. So if we have a large area, like we had a barn full of cattle, we were able to safely move them out of the affected into an area, another barn nearby that wasn't affected. And then we also worked with other farmers to get them moved out to other farms to house them. What this does is we have a group of animal response people, they're veterinarians and other people like that. So they can come in with this equipment. It's gonna have stuff for them to care for different animals, stuff to kennel and everything in a trailer in one location. So this is a contract with the American Kennel Club to accept that equipment, which will be housed in the county for our animal response team to be able to deploy if needed. So it's kind of like a shelter we set up like we have for a few shelters when we needed, when people had no place to stay. Same thing, this is kind of the same for animals. And there's equipment in there for us.
Mr. Hall, you had a question?
The pet disaster is a new term to me, other than a barn fire and hail. Can you provide any other examples?
Absolutely.
That would fall in that?
High rise in Ogdensburg, they all had pets inside. So when we initially started to set up a shelter, there was 104 residents in that building, when we had that fire. I would have to say probably 75% of them had pets. The place where we're looking at did not want any pets, and you know, the school is part of our shelters. You can't bring pets in the school, so what are you gonna do with those animals? So this would help all of that.
And I follow up.
Yes.
Do you know, have any idea of how many times per year this unit, you expect them to be activated or respond to a situation?
I could think of 2 last year, 2 in last year. We haven't had one this year.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Moving on, thank you, Mr. Tanner. Next up is Mr. Bodenhauer with the resolution proclaiming Earth Day in St. Lawrence County. Great. Motion by Mr. Perkins, second by Mr.
Thank you. This is a resolution that you see every April. It's April 22nd, Earth Day this year. It's our 54th anniversary of Earth Day. The Environmental Management Council does in recognition of the day, promotional type of things, and that's that's all I have to say about it.
Any questions for Mr. Bowen? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have a resolution proclaiming April 2024 as Fair Housing Month, moved by Mr. Webster and Mr. Forsythe. Go ahead.
Thank you. Again, similar resolution to the previous one. April is always a Fair Housing Month, and so we look to have Housing Month. Also identify various activities that the Fair Housing Task Force does in recognition of Fair Housing Month. And this year, the task force is sponsoring a series of workshops that will be held on Monday, March 25th. In in Canton, out of the HSC building, one at 10 a.m. and one at 2 p.m. They are workshops geared for providing information to landlords. The morning sessions for landlords and the afternoon session is for tenants, and just to identify various fair housing practices, new legislation that's out there with regard to fair housing, to provide opportunity for both landlords and have the latest information on fair housing.
Okay. Any questions from Mr. Fortnall? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any motion carried? Thank you very much, sir. Next up, we have Mr. Tim LePage from probation. I have a resolution declaring April Sexual Assault Awareness Month, moved by Mr. Perkins, Mr. Forsythe, Mr. Reagan. Good answer.
So this is our yearly resolution asking you to declare April Sexual Assault Awareness Month. This year's campaign is building connected communities, help bring awareness to help reduce likelihood of sexual abuse, assault, and as usual, Renewal House will be the lead agency and it'll be the public awareness.
Any questions for Mr. LePage on this? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next up, I have a resolution of the approval of bad debt write-off for the probation department, moved by Mr. Jeanette, Mr. Smithers. Go ahead, sir.
So again, this is another yearly thing we do. This is to help balance our books to take some old debt off the books. This is debt from 5 years ago that has gone to a collection agency to try to collect. We will continue to try to collect this money. if somebody's put back on probation. It's nothing we can violate on. We can't send them back to court for not paying it, so it is difficult to collect. The second page to that resolution is a 5-year history, starting in 2013 all the way up to 2017. You can see in 2013, we only collected 71% of the debt. As of 2017, we're up to 87% collection rate and only rate $5,700 versus almost just shy of 18,000. So staff's done a great job trying to collect all this money.
Any questions from Mr. LePage? Mr. Smithers?
I think it's worth commending you. See the reduction in the write-offs. It is quite significantly less, so that good work.
Like I said, they're doing a great job.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Thank you.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. LePage. Next up, we have information technology with Rick Johnson. We have a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a customer support agreement with SADA Systems, Inc. for the Google Workspace licenses and modifying the 2024 budget for information technology, moved by Mr. Forsythe and Mr. Jeanette. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. So we bought, a year ago, we bought into a number of Google Workspace licenses on an unlimited basis to see how it went. Looking for opportunities. It's not an all-in or all-out venture. For collaboration and so forth, gone quite well. I had budgeted originally maintained, because it's a subscription claims done every year. We decided we wanted to expand the enterprise a little bit. This, the difference here is between what I had budgeted to maintain and a handful more for upper level.
Any questions? Mr. Johnson? Mr. Hall?
Johnson, biggest sort of benefits of the Google Workspace system, in your opinion, what are those? How are we benefiting it?
I like the collaboration the best. I wasn't sure, honestly, what I was going to think of it when we did the proof of concept. Started that almost 2 years ago now, the thing that using it showed us is not so much about like the format of the document, but it's about how we share information. It's not just about, a Word document, an Excel document, what have you, but it's about the creation of information, how we share it with one another. You can look at it, they can look at it, and it was by the end of the proof of concept, we were so in ourselves that I knew that I needed to at least preserve the content that we had. So I would lead then, I think, mostly with collaboration. There are lots of other things I think that we have yet to discover.
I may follow up. That's great to hear the benefit. What's the comparative cost per user? I know it's an estimate based on what we have used in the past. And this system, I know it's sort of Google approach is an ecosystem approach. It's like the potato chips, right? You can't eat just one. There's an advantage to having more users on the collaborative system. And if we look ahead at adopting this more generally, what's sort of costs look like for the account in general? I know it's a broad question, but just kind of.
It's a great question, and it's the $64,000 question. And it's really not just about Google Workspace versus Office 365 or what have you, but the existing model is about buying stuff and having it rooted into the ground, buying more stuff. More and more companies, including Microsoft, are pushing organizations toward what they call a subscription licensing model, pay us every year. I think in the end, we're going to be paying somebody more than we're paying now because of that. So our ongoing charges, as we're exploring this, and we're still really kind of dipping our feet in, is to compare, those those benefits with the other. So there will absolutely be a lot more that I will bring you in terms of comparing those. I unfortunately think that, and I hate it. I'd much rather pay and run it in the ground, same way I do with cars, but they're, licensing models are afoot, right?
If I may, not to monopolize the conversation, but I know the switching costs of these platforms is expensive and time consuming. If you get involved in one, it's hard to sort of pull the tentacles out and land in another. If prices are more, agreeable in the future to switch platforms, say, committing more to Microsoft or Google, can you talk to us about the costs associated with that down the road? And how does that factor into the decisions about which environment they commit to?
Moving from one to another, and maybe it's not even a matter of all in one, all in another. Really spending a lot of time analyzing that. It's a great question. It's a complicated question. Because if you've got, and honestly, to have all in one and then to say we can magically move it into another is not a realistic thing. It would be ugly and bumpy and difficult. And even to have an organization such as ours, who are decades into an on-premise Microsoft-based solution, even to take back, and I'm not saying that I think the way is, well, just go all in with Google Cloud. We'll be jumping more into studying Office 365. So in the end, we will look at everything that is reasonably out there and look at its benefits to the community and its relative costs. So I can speak in much greater detail when the purchasing decisions come up.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much, sir. Next up, we have a resolution advocating for the adoption of farm-friendly policies within the state of New York. Moved by Mr. Forsythe, Mr. Reagan, Mr. Kenesha, Mr. Perkins. So, New York State has started a lawsuit against the largest beef packaging plant that is in the United States. Lawsuits like this drive up cost of product, cost of doing business. 1,900 farms have failed since 2020 in the United States. Every time that we increase a cost production and doing business in our state, we kind of drive somebody else's farm towards destruction. So the farmers in my area have reached out about this. They're concerned not just about their own farms, but what it would do across the state in terms of cost of food and the cost of running a business in New York State, and feel that we should be advocating for them for our state to be more farm friendly, because obviously there's no universe in which we don't need farmers, we don't need food for the people who live here. So I'm hoping people will support sending a message that, well, we have no, what's that? Well, we have, we understand that people have to look out for problems. We need to do it in a way that is friendly to the people who produce our food every day. First, by Mr. Reagan.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for introducing this, and thank you. I think it's very important that we take a stand on this, because it's nothing more than a glorified publicity stunt by our Attorney General, who is trying to get national headlines for her future career at the expense of our family farms. And, if this crusade, misinformed crusade, is allowed to stand, it will just be the first of many state-funded adversarial campaigns against the businesses that make up New York State. New York State already has the worst business climate in the country. Our farm community is constantly facing more and more and more regulations that drive businesses, drive families to just give up. And as that happens, it reduces the number of farms, it reduces the number of companies that serve those farms, whether they're insurance companies, whether they're feed companies, whether they're supply companies, whether they're tractor companies. There's a whole ecosystem and, you know, number of jobs connected to the agribusiness community. And too many people in the metropolitan areas have no concept of where food comes from. Senator Ritchie, when she was the chair of the Senate Agriculture Committee, just used to beat her head against the wall in Albany from people who thought food comes from a box. You know, they didn't really understand that it comes from the sweat and hard work of the family farms that have built this state and this country. So thank you for introducing this. And as a county that whose number one industry has been the agricultural industry, you know, we need to stand with our agricultural community. I don't have any farms in my district, but I have a lot of people who eat, and they support our family farms. Thank you.
Mr. Smithers, you were next.
Yes, thank you for bringing this up. And while I agree with everything that Legislator Reagan has said, this is just another example of things that we see coming from Albany in their zeal to create or to magnify this climate agenda that they have. And while it's admirable to try to protect the climate and the environment, they go so overboard in their efforts that it becomes economically punitive to a lot of industries. And we see this time after time. And we've seen it in their desire to electrify everything, including school buses, to shutting down the wood chip burning plant at Fort Drum. There's a lot of farms in the community that I represent. So I certainly support this and would like to be added as a co-sponsor of it.
Thank you, Mr. Smithers. Mr. Janisha, you were next.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. I'll make it brief. Take the second whereas, New York's Attorney General James, she's making a practice of waging war on business in New York State. She's driving business out of the state. That's not by accident, it's intentional. And the 12th whereas, dropping number of farms is directly attributable to increased costs and commodity prices. It costs more for diesel fuel, it costs more for seed, it costs more for fertilizer. The milk is a commodity. So farmers have no control over the price that they get for the milk that they produce. Increased market regulation, cost of operations, and restrictions imposed by the government. I don't think the New York State has found a restriction yet that they don't like. So.
Concur. Thank you. Next up, Mrs. Germinelli.
Thank you. I agree with everything everybody has said. You know, people rely on our farmers for food, and that's certainly an important thing. And to have farm-friendly policies it's kind of a non-negotiable. However, I think advocating for farm-friendly policies and supporting this resolution are kind of two different things. JBS is facing many many lawsuits right now, not just in the United States, but in Brazil for illegal farming practices. They're harvesting cattle from areas that are protected lands that they don't have access to. So I just, and really it's a company that's providing false advertisement. So while supporting farm-friendly practices is super important, holding businesses accountable for the things that they say is something that's separate. And this is not just localized to New York State. Like I said, they are being sued by the country of Brazil right now. So it's kind of more widespread than just this. But bring a resolution that's about farm-friendly practices. That really is about, not about a business that's undergoing some scrutiny right now, but really about practices that make our farming and our food management system sustainable, and I'm happy to support it, but I'm not going to support this one.
You know.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for bringing it forward. I'm gonna point out to Mr. Webster, the meat guy in the room. We don't need farms. We can do this in a lab, right? Glenn, would you explain how chicken is now created?
Actually, Bill Gates has a patent on it, and he has 2 plants in the United States right now that make what they call lab-grown chicken. They can actually produce it in 3 weeks. I guess the carbon footprint's a little better. They were also discovered that if they use cancerous cells, it will grow 10 times faster. It's not dangerous to us at all, I guess. Maybe we should think about a little bit more than just a carbon footprint.
I'm sorry, I had to do that, Madam Chair. He told me about that there a week ago, and I couldn't believe what I was reading, and the proof was in the pudding, so it's just crazy stuff. Maybe we can do it with our cows next, who knows?
Mr. Hall, you have something to say?
Yeah, hopefully not half-baked, comments. I emphasize with the concerns that Legislator Terminelli brought up. For this, it seems that this resolution is kind of doing 2 things. Critiquing the AG's prosecution of JBS. I don't know what anything at all really about that or the company. I mean, it is true that organizations are being kind of caught in an impossible situation. They're being asked / pressured to adopt these frankly impossible carbon neutrality goals. Because if you take the definition that's provided by sort of the global organizations, rewriting the definitions on what carbon neutrality is, you apply that to a farm in our county, the only way to achieve that is for the farm to no longer exist. And so I think we'd be remiss to not recognize that. And so I can appreciate both holding companies accountable for their claims. That's CAG's one of their jobs, and also standing up for our farmers and the future of our agriculture at San Luis County. So I support the thrust of this resolution. I think it may benefit from some clarity in what it's trying to accomplish, but I understand the goals here.
Mr. Shannon?
Yeah, so then, what can we do to make this a resolution that doesn't defend a company that's doing things that we don't want to support, while at the same time showing our adamant support for farm-friendly policies, more so in Albany? Could you make some recommendations on how we could amend this to make it more agreeable to what we're trying to do? Because I can see what you're saying, and I don't want to support a business that's doing something that they're being sued for there in Brazil.
Mr. Reagan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that, if this company is facing accusations in Brazil, that it will deal with those. The Brazilian government certainly doesn't need our help in enforcing its laws and in prosecuting whoever's responsible for violating Brazil's laws. I think that our thrust here today is to stand up for our family farms who sell to this company when it's operating in New York State. And, this war against our business community is costing us jobs. It's costing us our farms. It's costing us our people. It's, you know, our citizens are leaving the state and our communities, especially our rural communities, are being devastated by the loss of these farms. So, you know, if this company has people in Brazil who have committed crimes in Brazil, have at them, you know, but let's focus on New York State and what's happening here in the state of Lawrence County.
Mr. Webster.
One of the things I'm thinking about is that they're saying that they're gonna be carbon neutral by 2040 or 2040. I know New York State also said we're all gonna be on natural gas new construction by 2025, which is only months away. I think maybe it's more important to support our local farmers. I do deal with this company and I sell a lot of their meat, and I can say it's good meat, it's consistent meat. A lot of times you'll find tumors when you cut meat. I've never found a tumor in one of their products, both pork and beef. Maybe we should worry about more important things than being carbon neutral by 2040 with our local farms. We do need to support our farms. There's not much more going on around here anymore.
Mr. Hollywood.
If I might, I'd like to make a motion to amend the resolution. And that amendment would remove the first 8 whereases. And that would start then with whereas the U.S. Department of Agriculture, et cetera. To really clarify the stated goal of the title, advocating for the adoption of farm-friendly policies within the state of New York. And maybe we can formulate another resolution at a later point to deal with the prosecutorial concern and carbon neutrality concern more specifically. So I move to make that amendment. I guess it would be a friendly amendment, Madam Chair.
Still need a second. You need a second, I'll second. Okay, so discussion, I guess, on the amendment. Mr. Burke.
Just to remove the first 8 whereases, and so it would start at whereas the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So just the statements regarding the concerns with current policies around agriculture, most of which sort of focus on more local issues. Yeah, that would be the amendment.
It still says on the 4th from the last paragraph, commencing lawsuits against agrarian industry.
Yeah. I would leave that in there. You can candy coat it any which way you want to, but if we constantly sue the businesses in our state, how many of them will be left?
I certainly don't disagree with the supporting our farms.
Mhm.
And to Nicole's point, the example that's been given might not be then amended. I guess I'm just wondering if it's cleaned up sufficiently so that we are just supporting our family farms. And I think it's a good message to say we don't want a lot of lawsuits, these frivolous lawsuits against industry.
So I think that regularly people direct the question as, do we have an interest in this? And why are we getting involved in this? And I would think in this particular case, I don't know that the Attorney General for the state of New York has a place in Brazil and their company there. That was part of the thought process. Mrs. Terminelli.
I guess in this discussion we're having right now, I'm losing clarity if we are,
We're on
is this-
the-
right, but can I finish, please? If this resolution is about the Attorney General, or if this resolution is about farm-friendly practices or policies, and I'm losing
So
track.
the resolution is about farm-friendly practices. And it's been amended at this point to get rid of the first 8. Well, it's been brought up to try to amend out the first 8 whereases.
Yeah,
So now we're at the point of that discussion.
okay, well, I wasn't sure.
What do we do with it now that that has been proposed?
Okay, I think Mr. Hull's proposition to amend the resolution sounds great. It gets at the heart of what I believe the resolution was intending to do. And that would really apply to all policies and not just one particular example of somebody that may or may not be appreciated or liked being involved in the process.
Okay, so does anyone else have discussion on the proposed amendment? All in favor?
No.
Forsythe,
No.
Lightfoot,
No.
Sheridan,
No.
Bitters,
Yes.
Denisha. Perkins.
No.
Hull,
Yes.
Peg. Haggard,
Yes.
Webster,
No.
Burke,
Yes.
Jeanette,
No.
Carmelli. Yes. Kern. No. Nine no, 5 yes, 1 absent. Okay, so we're back to the original resolution. Any more discussion on that? This is Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I supported the amended resolution, you know, but, this, I agree with this criminality, she made some excellent points, and I would not be supporting it as it's written. I like farm-friendly New York too, this JBS. I don't think we know enough about the situation.
Any other discussion, rated? Seeing none, all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Aye. And against? 1, 2, 3 against. Very, thank you. Sort of a related topic, we have a resolution proclaiming April 21st through the 27th, 2024 as National Volunteer Appreciation Week in St. Lawrence County. Moved by Mr. Jeanette, Mr. Terminelli. Okay. So we have fewer volunteers these days than we used to have, definitely fewer than we'd like to have. Many times our volunteers are farmers because, you know, they're kind of out there in the communities, but I would like to thank and have us recognize all the people who volunteer all over our county in all the areas that they do. I probably will never mention all of them, but definitely fire, rescue, the people who come out to do Little League coaching and all the other things that make our communities work. We have Volunteer Week, the 21st to the 27th, and I just wanted to formally thank everybody who comes out to help in the county for all the different volunteer aspects that we need to have us be us. Anybody want to speak? Mrs. Haggard, you are first.
Great, thank you, and this is a great resolution. And it's a great segue for me to tell everyone about, the gala for the Arts Council on Saturday night. Mrs. Carminelli and I had the pleasure of attending. And one of our great volunteers in the county from Madrid, Anna Campbell, was honored with the award for the St. Lawrence County Arts Annual Arts Recognition Award. This is a well-deserved. She served to bring music to Madrid in the Madrid Dance series for 8 seasons.
Nice.
She's a transplant. Her husband was in the army and they lived all over the world. She came to Madrid, became very involved and volunteers all the time up there. It was a well-deserved award. Thank you for bringing this forward.
Very cool. Anybody else? Mrs. Terminelli.
I would just like to say that I think it'd be great during this week, you know, you mentioned that the number of volunteers that are out there are really kind of dwindling a bit. I think it'd be a great call to action on behalf of the board for that week for people that are not currently involved in volunteering for something, to find some cause that they can align with or that they appreciate, to lend some time to increase that volunteerism, because people, we really do depend on it to make things work for a lot of different people.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next up, we have the Vacancy Review Committee with Mrs. Doyle.
Thank you. So we had 16 vacancies requested this month from 7 departments. At this point in the year, we are at a 93% immediate fill rate. We have 2% coming in at the 30-day and 1% of each to 60 and 90-day hold positions. Since August, we've had approximately 86 or 9%, just above 9% vacancy rate overall of the county workforce. And that trends us toward approximately, if everything stayed the same that we've seen so far this year, we would end up around 147. And if we recall the numbers I try to keep you versed in, that would be a little under our average for positions that come up to be filled or replaced with other positions. That number still is trending around 155 to 165. So things can change over the remaining months of the year, which begins in August for this process. But tonight, I did want to mention to you, we were considering 2 departments. One department's position that's been requested has been placed on hold. While we have a few different, when we share positions between departments, in some circumstances, we want to make sure that the overall impact of the workload can be managed. So that is the reason why you're seeing emergency services on hold. And that leaves for this committee only the sheriff's office for this month. I've got 4 positions for the sheriff. 2 are filled, which are existing budgeted positions, and 2 are abolish and create. For the sheriff.
So, the first position I asked you to fill is gonna be the sheriff's deputy, and this is due, to retirement of a deputy. And I would ask that be immediately approved.
Questions? Mr. Forsythe.
Thank you, Sheriff. How many positions are you down?
I figured you were gonna ask that. Right now,
Curious. Okay.
well, this would make 3.
Okay.
Mr. Smithers.
If I'm looking at the job qualifications for this position. And it says graduation from high school, possession of a high school equivalency diploma, or possession of an individual education plan. And then it says meet current requirements of section 58. So there must be some kind of special training that they would have to undergo then afterwards.
That's correct.
Okay, and what would that consist of? For somebody that was interested in the job, say.
Right, so the way this process works, obviously, is, you'd have to take a civil service exam, pass a civil service exam, pass a physical agility test. At that point, you can be hired. When you're hired at that point, you undergo a psychological evaluation, pass that, you would attend the academy. So that's the process.
And the academy is like how long a period of time?
Approximately 5 months.
5 months.
Any other questions? Okay, next one.
So the next position, it's a full-time licensed practical nurse LPN. What we'd like to do is, I'm sorry. My apologies. The next position is a full-time corrections officer. This vacancy is due to the resignation of that corrections officer.
Questions? Mr. Forsythe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Sheriff. My question is, back in the fall, I believe, we authorized 3 new correction officers, I believe. And that was in the attempts to help curb overtime, and I don't need it today. Can you give us an idea where we are in year-to-date overtime as opposed to last year? In the correctional, and I don't need it today unless you got it.
Okay.
You got it? There you go.
Any other questions on that for the sheriff? All in favor? Next one.
So the next one is abolish and create. What we'd like to do is abolish the full-time RN position due to a recent resignation and fill that with a full-time LPN position. We currently have an LPN that works per diem and is willing to go full-time.
Sure. Who should, or what will fill this LPN? Just which position will the license be under?
Sorry,
So as an LPN, will this position supervised by an RN, or what other clinical role in the
well, this position would be supervised by, I would imagine, the medical director and under Dr. Grimm or Dr. Bat.
Mr. Jeanette.
Sheriff, is that gonna really put a damper on like the intakes? Because I remember before you needed an RN to do the intake. Again, not a medical person. I just remember hearing that I needed an RN to do intake. That's what, that was the last year thing, so I don't know if that's.
Yeah, it's my understanding that this person is working towards their registered nurse license. But as of right now, there are currently 3 other registered nurses. So.
Thank
you.
And before we do the last, I can give you the update on overtime. For the sheriff's office, they finished the year without a transfer, which has been some years since that's happened. The budget for that department or that overtime unit was 210. They finished at 187. And they have budgeted 143 this year, I think, with respect to the new positions. And current trending, they should finish right around that number, given, you know, no other changes to their personnel status or concern. So trending in the right direction.
Thank you.
Last position?
So the last position is looking at abolishing the chief civil enforcement officer position and create a deputy sheriff sergeant position.
This is the, Karen walked around and handed you a new vacancy. That is to replace, that is the one the sheriff will be speaking to. So please use that one for this discussion.
So chief civil enforcement officer is due and retiring at the end of the month. I need to fill that position with, it's a supervisory role. That's why we're asking for the sergeant position to supervise the civil division.
Any questions? Seeing none. Thanks, Sheriff. Next up, we will have the county administrative report.
Yes, just a few items to give you an update on this evening. The first is, as required in local law C of the year 2011, transfer of funds to report out to you tonight. And it is for the Public Health Department in the amount of $2,000. And that is associated with the contract amount that did not get updated in the budget. So this was for our Vineski state aid contract that had increased and was not increased in the budget. So it came time to pay the contract amount and they were short. So fortunately, they had an area of appropriations they could transfer from. We were able to complete that transaction. On your desks are a pair provided to all of you of glasses that have been prepared and designed by the St. Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce. I think they did a great job with the design. I can't say right now that you can see anything when you look through them. But these are for sale. We have some in the office and they have some downtown for $3, cash only. If you're interested in buying some for friends or family, let us know. We'll make sure we have enough on hand. Today, our IT director convened emergency services, the sheriff's office and my office, with a call with our new mass notification system, RAID, that the board supported a couple of months ago. We are in full speed ahead to get that in place. Mindful that our first opportunity to utilize this will be the eclipse, to share information with the public if there's any issues that arise, planned or unplanned, that we want to make sure the public's aware of. From that perspective, we have all sorts of options after that. Our first push is to get trained. That should happen in the next 7 to 10 days. And our hope is to be able to have both a QR code and a word that folks can text or attach themselves through the QR code and be enrolled to receive notifications from the county. So we're working on that now. We'll keep you posted. Our goal is to have that online the first week of April. Currently, to that end, the very next operations committee is scheduled for the same day as the eclipse. And for those of you at NISAC, you may have been asked questions about other counties that have mentioned that they may close for the entire day. Not a discussion that's taken place here, not a suggestion that I'm making. We are hearing from some school districts throughout the county and the state who are taking unique approaches to the day. But what I wanted to bring to your attention is our operations committee is scheduled for that evening. I believe it's a couple hours past that time over this area. But I wanted to find out, we do have a little bit of flexibility in April. We can either, if the board's interested, combine with services the following week on the 15th, or we can move all the committees down to the end of the month. We actually have an extra open Monday on the 29th. So I look for your guidance. I bring that to your attention and would answer any questions you have. Mr. Reagan.
I would suggest that we combine the following week's meeting because, no one knows for sure how many people will be coming from Canada and elsewhere to St. Lawrence County. We don't know whether or not, as some reports have suggested, 100,000 people are coming to the county. But the point is that there could be a lot of people on the roads. There could be a lot of traffic issues. There could be a lot of things going on. And, I think that we just might want to consider combining the two meetings the following week.
How about, as a show of hands, everybody that would be agreeable to combining operations and services on the 15th of April instead of coming up for Monday? Looks like everybody's sort of agreeable to that, just so we don't, and you're right, I think, Mr. Reagan. You can have 50 people that show up in the county, there could be 100,000, and how would you ever get here? And
so thank you. That gives us plenty of time to notice both the media and the public about the change in the meeting. Last year, just as an update, the chair requested that a review take place of our indigent burial fees. And so we've been able to, with Legislator Haggard's guidance, work with both social services and with the Funeral Directors Association. It is our hope, I think you've seen some media in the last month or two with our neighboring county taking it up. Our hope is at either services or finance this month to bring you an update to that with some information about recommendations for changes to those policies. And lastly, I'll give you an update on our capital projects. As I indicated, I'd like to bring you updates as frequently as possible. Hopeful that, certainly the media will hear and be able to share information, but also so that you're well versed if asked by your constituents. Our demolition across the street at Public Safety Complex is well underway. I toured the second floor and only the walls remain that we'll be keeping. And so they are keeping a tidy work site, both inside and outside, and they're moving right along. So happy to see progress there. For the old jail roof, that roof will be replaced along with all of the unnecessary equipment removed, along with some repointing that needs to take place and some repairs to the pillars that hold up the porch. They were on site today, and with the weather pending and projects ahead, they could begin the project within a couple of weeks. So we're very excited to see that project. It was something we had anticipated getting done last year. For a variety of reasons that didn't occur. So we're looking very forward to seeing the roof replaced at the old jail so that we can proceed with plans with a drying environment there. Probably the most popular discussion related to our capital projects is our parking issue. And that is always an issue for the county, even in more static times related to facility changes. But we have relocated 42 vehicles of the county fleet between social services and county vehicles over to the Human Services Center. And so that frees up those placards that have designated those spaces have been removed. So those are now open, unrestricted parking areas. But we understand even on, normal days, not even grand jury days, but normal days, it's a challenge. So for folks, let's say you were taking a county car, you picked it up out of Human Services, but you needed to stop by here. Rather than drive around, we have some temporary parking over behind the surrogate building. So you can stop in, pick up or drop off whatever you need to and continue on with your day. But there'll be no shortage of frustration shared with all of you throughout this project. So please encourage folks to be patient, work with us on very busy days, or if we have big trials in the future, we'll both look to Human Services and out to the correctional facility where we've had shuttles before and been able to bus folks back and forth to the location. So it will be frustrating for folks and it will be congested, but we're doing our best both to keep the area tidy and also make sure folks can get in and out of here. Questions? Okay, that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Committee reports. The Agricultural Environment and Protection Board, Mr. Kenesha.
I have nothing to report since my last report haven't met. However, I just want to, for the members of the Buildings and Ground Committee that are here, remind them that we have a meeting Wednesday, the 14th.
Thank you. Alternative to Incarceration Board, Mr. Burke.
Nothing new to report.
Thank you. Board of Trustees for the Supreme Court Library, Legislator Hager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing new to report this time.
The Emergency Medical Services Advisory Board meets on the 26th, which is 3 Tuesdays. That's that. On to the Environmental Management Council, Ms. Terminelli.
Our last meeting was on February 21st, and I was out of town on vacation and not able to access the Zoom. Our next meeting is March 20th, so I'll provide an update after that.
Thank you, Madam. Fire Advisory Board, Mr. Denisha.
I passed last month because we had not had a meeting. It had been rescheduled, and the rescheduled meeting didn't happen either. So I have nothing to report.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sheridan.
Yes, Madam Chairman, that board has not met since my last report.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fay is not here. Does anyone have Mr. Fay's report from the planning committee? Mr. Fulton, do you have anything exciting?
Everything.
Everything. Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions about any of that? Seeing none. Now we're on to old business. Is there any old business that anyone wants to discuss? Seeing none. On to new business. Does anyone have new business? Mr. Forsythe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to give kudos to our county administrator and also our highway superintendent. Last week, I had a little issue in my district with the transfer station and the appearance from the road with the bags and the garbage and along the road. And the complaints were totally justified. And I must say, I made a call to the county administrator, let her know my displeasure and the people's displeasure and the neighbors' displeasure. And by the next morning, it was totally cleaned up and looked good. So kudos, let's keep it going. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any other new business? Mr. Denisha.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For those of you who may have heard, any rumors that the rumors of the demise of the town of Herman greatly over.
Thank you, sir. So no other old new business. Do we have a need for executive session?
We do for litigation, negotiations, personnel, which is the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation, and appointments.
Thank you. Motion to go into executive session by Mr. Hall, seconded by Mr. Jeanette. All in favor?
Aye.
We will go into executive session. I need to ask for indulgence. I need to ask for- Excuse me. I needed to ask for indulgence to have our district attorney join executive session. Is there any objection? Okay. Now I can offer Ross. In addition to super counts. That these were. You know, that's
Payroll only?
post. So that's that question again. Now we're in
Payroll
open
only?
session. All in favor of adjourning.
Happy how you
Motion to
feel.
adjourn. John. Second. And all in favor of adjourning.
Hey.
We are adjourned.
Each other.
Thank you.